welcome back to my channel. Let's recap where we left off because things got intense. Chioma is pregnant with Park Lee's baby, living in his penthouse, and they just had the most charged bathroom towel moment that left both of them breathless. He's being protective, she's confused about her feelings, and the tension between them is so thick you could cut it with a knife. If you're still not subscribed after 4 episodes of this absolute roller coaster, what are you waiting for? This is episode 5, and I'm telling you right now, this is where everything explodes. Hit that subscribe button immediately because you do not want to miss what's about to happen. Steam still clung to Chioma's skin as she stepped out of the bathroom, her bathrobe wrapped loosely around her body, her braids damp and falling over her shoulders. She was exhausted from another day of morning sickness and pregnancy symptoms, thinking only about getting to bed. She wasn't prepared for what she found when she opened the door. Park Lee was there, leaning against her bedroom doorframe with his arms folded, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. There was no apology in his gaze, no pretense of having accidentally stumbled upon her. He was looking at her deliberately, appreciatively, and that dangerous smile was playing at his lips. "You're dangerously attractive for a woman with such a sharp tongue," he said, his voice dropping into that low teasing tone that always made her pulse race. "Even when you're trying to kill me with words, you're stunning." Her breath hitched, heat flooding her cheeks. "You're supposed to knock," she managed, clutching her robe tighter, even though it was perfectly secure. "There are boundaries, Park Lee. Privacy. Basic human decency." But he didn't move, didn't look away, didn't show even a hint of embarrassment at being caught staring. Instead, his smirk deepened, his eyes glinting with pure mischief. "Why would I knock when the view is this good? I'd be denying myself one of the few pleasures in my controlled existence." She spun around, her heart racing with what she told herself was pure fury but felt suspiciously like something else entirely. "Get out of my room before I throw something at your head." His low chuckle followed her as she disappeared into her closet, and she hated how her hands trembled as she changed into pajamas. Hated even more how her reflection in the mirror showed flushed cheeks and bright eyes that betrayed exactly how his words had affected her. That night, at 2 a.m, Chioma tossed restlessly in her bed. Sleep refused to come, kept at bay by the strange combination of nausea and intense hunger that pregnancy had cursed her with. The craving hit suddenly and powerfully. Strawberry ice cream. She needed it with an urgency that felt almost painful, completely unreasonable, and absolutely undeniable. Against every bit of her better judgment, she padded out into the hallway in her pajamas, muttering under her breath about ridiculous pregnancy cravings and her body's complete betrayal of common sense. She almost screamed when she rounded the corner and found Park Lee there, leaning against the wall near the kitchen, scrolling through his phone like it was perfectly normal to be awake at this hour. "Can't sleep?" he asked, raising one eyebrow as he pocketed his phone. She clutched her chest, her heart still racing from the surprise. "Do you ever actually sleep? Or do you just lurk in hallways waiting to give people heart attacks?" He pushed off the wall, studying her face in the dim light. "What do you need?" She hesitated, suddenly embarrassed by the intensity of her craving, by how desperately she wanted something so trivial. I want ice cream. Strawberry ice cream. With chocolate chips, if possible."
He didn't sigh.
Didn't lecture her about the late hour or make her feel foolish for the request. He just pulled out his phone again. "What brand? Any specific kind?" She blinked, surprised by his immediate compliance. "Just strawberry. Good quality. The kind that doesn't taste like frozen chemicals." 15 minutes later, the penthouse doorbell rang. A delivery person handed over a bag containing not one but 3 different premium brands of strawberry ice cream, all with chocolate chips. Park Lee placed them on the kitchen counter and handed Chioma a spoon with an expression that somehow managed to be both mocking and gentle. "So my fierce little lioness is ruled by strawberry ice cream at 2 a.m, he said, his lips twitching with amusement. "Who would have thought your weakness would be dairy products?" She dug into the first container, too grateful and too hungry to maintain her usual defenses. The cold sweetness hit her tongue, and she actually moaned with relief, which made him chuckle low in his throat. Then, without warning, her eyes filled with tears. The ice cream was perfect, the gesture was unexpectedly kind, and her hormones were completely out of control. A sob caught in her throat as tears spilled down her cheeks. His expression shifted immediately from amusement to concern. Don't cry. It's just ice cream, Chioma. Why are you crying over frozen dessert? But when another tear slipped down her cheek, he reached across the counter and wiped it away with his thumb, his touch surprisingly gentle. His voice softened into something she'd never heard from him before. You're actually cute when you're messy and emotional and eating ice cream at inappropriate hours. The days that followed blurred together in a strange, new rhythm. Morning sickness continued to hit Chioma hardest in those early hours, leaving her weak and trembling and thoroughly miserable. One particularly brutal morning, she clutched the bathroom sink with white knuckles, her entire body rebelling against everything she'd tried to eat the previous day. Park Lee appeared instantly, as he always seemed to now. His hand steadied her back, warm and solid through her thin pajama top, while his other hand held her braids away from her face with surprising tenderness. Breathe, he said in that low, steady voice that somehow cut through her panic. Just breathe through it. I've got you. You're not alone. When the worst passed and she slumped with exhaustion, he lifted her as easily as if she weighed nothing and carried her to the living room couch. He settled her carefully against the cushions, adjusted pillows behind her back, and disappeared into the kitchen. Minutes later, he returned with bland crackers, ginger tea, and toast cut into small pieces. I can't, she protested weakly. I'll just throw it up again. You need something in your stomach, he insisted, sitting beside her. Small bites. We'll go slow. And then he did something that shocked her into compliance. He picked up a small piece of toast and held it to her lips, his expression serious and focused. Eat. For the baby, if not for yourself. She let him feed her, too tired to argue, too surprised by his patience to protest. He coaxed her through several bites, praising each one like she'd accomplished something remarkable, and somehow she kept it down. That night, sleeplessness plagued her again. She found herself curled on the living room sofa at 3 a.m, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing and feeling utterly exhausted but unable to rest. She didn't hear him approach, but suddenly he was there, sitting beside her in the darkness. Without a word, he draped another blanket over her and settled back against the couch. Sleep, he said quietly. I'll keep watch. Nothing's going to happen to you while I'm here. Her heart ached at the contradiction of him. Arrogant and controlling, bossy and demanding, yet somehow quietly devoted in ways she couldn't quite process or defend against. Later, when the mood swings hit with hormonal vengeance, she snapped at him for breathing too loudly while she was trying to read. He only smirked, completely unbothered. So my crime today is existing and requiring oxygen. That seems harsh even for you. When tears rolled down her cheeks moments later for absolutely no reason she could identify, he pulled her into his chest without hesitation, without making her explain or justify the emotional chaos. Cry all you want, he whispered into her hair, his arms solid around her shaking shoulders. I'll still be here when you're done. Even if you call me every terrible name you can think of in between sobs, I'm not going anywhere. Their arguments shifted, transformed into something else entirely. Something hotter, more dangerous, charged with an electricity that neither of them could ignore anymore. At night, he'd find her in the hallway and corner her against the wall, leaning close enough that his breath teased her ear and made her knees weak. You're too distracting, he'd murmur, his voice rough with something that sounded like frustration and desire mixed together. I can't focus on anything knowing you're here, in my space, carrying my child, looking at me with those eyes. Then don't look at me, she'd shoot back, shoving against his chest even as her pulse raced. Impossible, he'd reply with that infuriating wink. I've tried. It doesn't work. You're all I see now. Her heart betrayed her constantly, thundering every time his eyes lingered too long, every time he stood too close, every time his voice dropped into that intimate register that felt like a physical touch. One night, restless and thirsty, Chioma padded barefoot into the kitchen. The marble counters glowed under the dim pendant lights, the penthouse quiet except for the distant hum of the city below. She was reaching for a glass when his voice cut through the silence. Raiding my kitchen at midnight, he said, his tone low and teasing. Should I be worried or flattered? She startled, nearly dropping the glass, and spun to find Park Lee leaning against the refrigerator. His shirt was unbuttoned at the top, sleeves rolled back to reveal forearms that shouldn't have been as distracting as they were. He watched her with that dangerous smirk, his eyes tracking her every movement. "Stop sneaking up on me," she hissed, clutching the glass like a shield. "It's creepy and you know it." He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, each movement calculated to make her pulse spike. She backed up instinctively until the cool wall pressed against her spine. He caged her in, one hand on the wall beside her head, his body close but not quite touching, giving her space to escape if she really wanted to. His voice dropped, becoming velvet soft but shamelessly bold. "You really think I don't notice everything about you? The way you avoid my eyes when I stare too long? The way you blush when I say certain things? The way your breath catches when I get close? You drive me absolutely insane, Chioma." Her breath caught, proving his point. His nearness was overwhelming, the heat radiating from his body, the scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. She tried to push against his chest, to create distance, but he only leaned closer, his lips ghosting near her ear. "Careful," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "If you keep staring at me like that, looking at my mouth the way you are right now, I might just take you upstairs and show you exactly how babies are actually made. Though I suppose we're past that particular lesson now." Her heart slammed against her ribcage. She hated how her knees weakened, how her body responded to him despite every logical reason to maintain distance. "You're insufferable," she managed, her voice trembling. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, his gaze burning into hers. "Maybe I am. But admit something for me. Your pulse doesn't lie, Chioma. I can see it racing in your throat. I make your heart race, don't I?" His words wrapped around her, fearless and unfiltered and dangerously honest. For a moment she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the intensity of his focus on her. And when he finally stepped back, leaving her pressed against the wall trying to remember how to function, she hated that her heart was still hammering like he owned it. Days passed in this charged atmosphere until everything changed. Chioma sat on the penthouse couch one afternoon, her phone trembling in her hands as she scrolled through news sites and social media. The headlines screamed her name now, her identity no longer a mystery. Mystery woman identified. Korean billionaire's companion exposed. Nigerian woman revealed as Park Lee's secret girlfriend. The blogs, the gossip sites, the news outlets, they all had her face, her name, details about her life that she'd never shared publicly. "I'm ruined," she whispered, her chest rising and falling with shallow, panicked breaths. "They know everything. Who I am, where I'm from, that I worked at the hotel. I can't show my face outside. My family will see this. Everyone from Lagos will know." Footsteps approached, his presence magnetic even in her panic. Park Lee's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts, steady and fearless. "Breathe, Chioma. You're not ruined. You're mine, and I don't let what belongs to me get destroyed." She spun toward him, her cheeks heating despite the panic. "Stop saying things like that. You can't just claim ownership of people like we're business assets." But he closed the space between them, his fingers brushing under her chin and tilting her face up to meet his gaze. His expression was serious, that infuriating smirk replaced by something intense and possessive. "Why not? You blush every single time I do. Your body knows the truth even when you fight it." Her heartbeat stuttered. She shoved his hand away, trying to maintain some semblance of control. "Everyone's talking about me, about us. My life is being dissected online." He leaned closer, his whisper brushing her ear and making her shiver. "Good. Let them talk. Tomorrow night they'll see everything for themselves, and there won't be any more questions or speculation." She blinked, confused and alarmed. "See what? What are you talking about?" He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks with casual confidence. "There's a charity gala tomorrow evening. Major event. Every important person in Seoul will be there, along with press and photographers. You'll be on my arm. No hiding anymore, no denials, no pretending. I want every camera in that room to know exactly who you are to me." Her jaw dropped. "Are you completely insane?" "I'll panic. I'll embarrass you in front of everyone who matters to your business." But his hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her flush against him with shocking boldness. His eyes burned into hers, playful but daring and absolutely serious. Then panic beautifully. Embarrass me stunningly if you must. But you'll be there, Chioma, because when I walk into that room with you, I want every man present to know they can't have what I've claimed. Her pulse thundered, her lips parting but no words coming. For the first time, she realized he wasn't afraid of the world seeing her, wasn't trying to hide their connection. He wanted to display it, to claim her publicly. And that terrified her more than any headline ever could. The charity gala ballroom was spectacular, ablaze with crystal chandeliers that scattered light like diamonds, filled with women in glittering designer gowns and men in sharp tuxedos. Reporters swarmed the red carpet entrance, their voices overlapping in chaotic competition for attention. Inside, the air was thick with expensive champagne and designer perfume, with power and wealth on display. Chioma adjusted her dress nervously, a simple but elegant design that Park Lee's stylist had selected. Her hand trembled slightly as she smoothed the fabric, acutely aware of every eye that had turned toward them the moment they arrived. She leaned toward him, whispering sharply, "I told you this was a terrible idea. Everyone's staring at us like we're a scandal waiting to happen." His voice was calm, unbothered by the attention. "Let them stare. They always stare at me anyway. Might as well give them something worth looking at." He didn't wait for her response or give her time to protest further. He took her hand with deliberate gentleness and placed it in the crook of his arm, his other hand covering hers. His grip tightened just slightly, a silent command and reassurance combined, daring her to pull away. Camera flashes exploded instantly. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the room gradually hushed. They walked down the marble steps together into the ballroom, every eye glued to them, conversations dying mid-sentence. The event host paused in his remarks, clearly thrown by the disruption. Whispers erupted like wildfire through the gathered crowd. "Is that her? The woman from the clinic photos? She's absolutely stunning. I wasn't expecting that. Look at how he's holding her. This is serious." A bold reporter finally shouted above the murmurs, breaking the unspoken rules of polite society. "Mr. Park, who is she to you? What's her name? How long have you been together?" Park Lee didn't flinch. His gaze swept deliberately over the crowd, acknowledging the power players and business rivals with that confident smirk before landing on Chioma. His eyes softened for just a moment, something genuine flickering there that made her breath catch. Then, with a boldness that cracked the room wide open, he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's my girlfriend, Chioma Peters. And yes, before you ask, it's serious." The room exploded. Gasps, shocked murmurs, phones appearing instantly to capture the moment and spread it across social media. Chioma froze, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst, her face burning under the combined weight of hundreds of stares and dozens of camera flashes. She turned toward him with wide eyes, whispering in panicked disbelief. "Girlfriend? Are you completely insane? We never agreed to that label." His voice dropped low and husky as he leaned close, his lips nearly brushing her ear. "No, I'm done hiding you. Done pretending this is just a business arrangement. The world might as well know the truth." Back at the penthouse later, she stormed into the living room, her earlier composure completely shattered. "You humiliated me in front of the entire Seoul elite," she yelled, pacing furiously. "Every important person in Korean society just watched you claim me like property." He followed her inside, calm but with something intense burning in his eyes. "Humiliated? No. I gave them the truth they were already speculating about." "The truth? You don't even..." She couldn't finish, couldn't articulate the confusion and fear and strange hope tangled in her chest. He cut her off, stepping close, his voice dropping into that low, intense register. "Don't even what? Don't care about you? Don't want you? Is that what you think this is?" Her chest heaved with emotion. "You only want me because I'm carrying your baby. That's all this is. Convenience and biology." His laugh was low, almost dangerous. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear as he spoke. "If you weren't carrying my child, I'd still want you, Chioma. I wanted you the moment you glared at me in that office and told me my suit was ugly. The baby only tied our fates tighter together, made it impossible to ignore what was already there." Her knees weakened. He lifted her chin with gentle fingers, his thumb grazing her bottom lip in a gesture that felt impossibly intimate. Every time you fight me, every time you glare and push back and refuse to bend, I want you more. I don't care what society thinks or what the headlines say. I care about you. You drive me absolutely insane, and I don't want to stop feeling this way. She tried to form a retort, tried to maintain her defenses, but his lips claimed hers in a kiss that stole every coherent thought from her mind. It was fierce and hungry and fearless, conveying everything words couldn't. She clutched his suit jacket, lost in the fire of it, her carefully constructed walls crumbling completely. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. That smile, that dangerous, beautiful smile curved his lips. 9 months with you? Maybe it's not hell after all. Maybe it's something else entirely. She stood trembling, her heart screaming with questions and fears and feelings she wasn't ready to name. Would he still love me if there was no baby? She thought, the question echoing painfully in her mind. Or is this all just about his heir? Later that night, as she changed for bed, a sharp pain twisted suddenly through her stomach. She froze, one hand flying to her abdomen. And then she saw it. Blood. Her hands started shaking violently, her eyes going wide with pure terror. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. No, no, no. Please, no. So there you have it. Park Lee just publicly claimed Chioma as his girlfriend. They finally kissed. He confessed his feelings, and now she's bleeding. The baby, their entire arrangement, everything they've been building is suddenly at risk. If you're not losing your mind right now, you weren't paying attention. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on because episode 6 is going to be absolutely devastating and you cannot miss it. Drop a comment telling me if you think the baby is okay or if everything is about to fall apart. I'll see you in the next episode where we find out what happens. Rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 and comment where you are watching from. To be continued.